2022 at 6:07 p.m. And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I did not bring my tiny flag, so we'll just have to, I don't know, anybody have a flag? We'll just have to pretend. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And then, does anyone have any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, I don't hear any, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes of December 14th, which it looks like BJ has put up on the computer here. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Mark moves to adopt the minutes.
Okay. Can I have a second?
This is Jamie. I'll second.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments or discussion? Changes? No? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from December 14th, 2021? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I heard everybody except for Jackie. Jackie, did you say aye or?
Aye, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's unanimous then. Okay, actually, I think I'm supposed to take a roll call, but it's only 5 of us. It's not.
Theoretically, but we'll let it go.
Okay, now we have public participation and announcements. Is there any members of the public that are here that would like to discuss anything not on the agenda? No. Okay. So we'll get right on to our principal's report then. Brian? Is he here? He's here, right? Yep. I saw him before.
He is here. He's just
Oh, there he
getting
goes.
technology together here.
Technology.
There we go. All right, can everybody see it?
Yeah, it actually looked better before when you had the full screen sharing, but that's fine
Okay.
like that.
No, I can do that still again.
No, just slideshow. There you go. That looks good.
All right, so welcome to the Lead Learner Report for January 11th, 2022. So first off, we're going to start back with we didn't do any student presentations this month. We've just had a really short month from the time we got off for winter break until now. But we do have our student holiday sing-along that went out. So since we weren't able to do a traditional holiday sing-along and invite our families to the school, we brought our sing-along to them. So thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Shambo for organizing this holiday sing-along. It was a great way for our students to be able to share a little bit of the holiday spirit. And I know it was definitely enjoyed by our community. And so there is a link there that I'll share with everybody later on so that you can hear it if you haven't already had that opportunity to see it and hear it. It was great. So Leader and Me is always our focus. So we're going to be meeting with members of our Lighthouse team and our Leader and Me coach on this Friday, January 14th. So we're doing a Zoom meeting at 12 o'clock on that one. And then Miss Cole has been doing her SEL lessons using all the Leader and Me lessons. And she's been focusing on habits 2 and 3. And then 8th grade is working on some service projects. So we're trying to figure out how the students can do those with our COVID world that we're living in so that they can come and volunteer and such in classrooms. So we're trying to figure out how we can safely do that with them mixing pods. Enrollment and attendance for December 15th from our last board meeting up until today. So our total enrollment has not changed. We have 236 students. Our average daily attendance with everything going on has been 86.4%. And we had 0 new students from December 14th through today. We have 1 hop in the book, so coming up. So COVID update. So we have had 6 classes that were affected. 1 again last night. We've got it down pretty good with the robocall and all the information that goes out directly to that classroom. So it saves quite a bit of time for BJ and Emily and Carrie, because they're the ones that were making those calls on the weekend. And now we can just send them out a call. They get to hear my voice, and then it sends them to an email that also comes to them and gives them all the information. But we've been able to test to stay and keep children in school. We've had 6 positive tests with the test to stay, but it didn't infect or affect other students out of 132 tests. We did 47 of them today alone. There are new protocols coming into place from the state, so those are coming down, and we'll figure out exactly what those are going to be. 46% of our students are fully vaccinated. The one thing that we did find out the other day is that a lot of our 8th graders, because they were the first round of students that were eligible for vaccination, now have been it's been past the 6 months since they've been vaccinated, so they're no longer considered fully vaccinated by the state. So they are getting those booster shots ready for those students to be able to get those. So our numbers there are about the same. And I would like to give some special recognition to our COVID team in the morning. So Emily Stevens, our school nurse, has been doing an amazing job. She works on the weekends, she takes calls, and takes care of a lot of the stuff. And BJ and Carrie as well have been doing that. And then we also have Meg Shambo, who's been helping out, and then Christian Hubner has been helping out. So thank you for all those people helping out with the test to stay, plus everything that's been going on with COVID. Building community. So we're continuing our monthly conversations with Chief Spalding regarding fire safety. And one of the things that him and I spoke about the other day was possibly doing a vaccination clinic on January 22nd. Rescue Incorporated, who's out of Brattleboro, Vermont, they would like to do one at our school site on January 22nd from 10 to 1:30, and they would have all the booster shots, plus they would have the first round of vaccinations and the second round of vaccinations for people that are interested. So we want to talk a little bit more about that if that's a possibility. Chief Daniels from the excuse me, from the Weathersfield Police Department. He was able to give an extra presence at school because of a non-credible internet threat, which was great to have him there before school, during school. He was pretty much there the entire day just to make sure that everybody was safe. Continuing to communicate with our town manager, Brandon Gulnick. Him and I have been talking about the town report, and I know that the select board did decide to do a virtual meeting for our town meeting, so that's coming up. And then we do want to talk a little bit about our service award nomination, and then they reached out to me about the town challenge, so I'm going to be working with Mark Richardson, our local librarian, to come up with how we could virtually do the town challenge, because that hasn't been done before. So that seemed pretty exciting. Hopefully it'll help me learn a little bit more about the town of Weathersfield. Here's a picture from our community dinner at Weathersfield. This was actually at our last board meeting, so it was a huge success. We had Santa there, BJ was there, Heather was there, our PTO was there. We had John Harrison there as well, passing out meals. We had about 200 meals that we passed out to families for our first event. I know the board got to eat dinner that night too, but it was an excellent community event. It was a little colder than I thought of. It was going to be not quite as cold as it was today, but it still was cold. So I definitely will dress warmer at the next one. And then we had some holiday visitors at school. One of our kindergarten teachers threw out the challenge for me to step it up a little bit. She saw some principal that was dressing up for the holidays. So I did dress up as a reindeer one day in front of school. And then I was the principal on a shelf as students were leaving. And my daughter is shaking her head at me right now because she thought it was a little freaky. But I stayed there. And then you can tell you're starting to get old, because if you've been sitting someplace for 20 minutes and your feet start to go numb, you realize that you need to move a little bit more often. So, but it was just a little holiday fun for the kids to be able to see. And it was funny how many kids didn't even notice at first as they walked by. We were able to do some community outreach. We were able to give fruit baskets to our neighbors. We're trying to be good neighbors and work with our neighbors all around us. So we were able to give them fruit baskets, and they enjoy that little bit of holiday spirit. And then I know our 3rd grade classroom gave Christmas cards to our neighbors at the Escutney house as well. Lead issue at Weathersfield. We did have a slight little lead issue with certain faucets. So I think 18 faucets were affected by them. The faucets were tagged. We had signage up on them saying that do not use them for any type of human consumption for cooking or anything else. All the faucets were replaced over the winter break, and then we're waiting for the state to come back to retest. So hopefully that lead issue is gone, but they felt it was just in the faucets because it wasn't widespread throughout the school. Staff recognition, we've been trying to work on that to make our staff feel appreciated. They're doing an amazing job and they're working really hard and tirelessly. So January 4th, we had our 2022, we had our staff participated in our staff development day. There was part of it that was SU that we looked at the strategic plan as a whole group, and then they got to choose their own learning. Some of our staff did go to specifically designed classes that they got to do, but it was an opportunity for them to collaborate with their grade level or grade level above and a grade level below. And then we also gave out Weathersfield swag to all of our staff members. I'm all about the brand, as you guys know. And I thought it was important for our teachers to have, and actually all of our staff to have some swag so that they could be able to sport the Weathersfield design when they go out places. And then we did have this really fun team building project. And then I talked to my wife, who's a teacher at Windsor, and she said, "Really, Brian?" She said, "They've been on vacation. They're coming back. You know, they want to work in their classrooms, and you're going to have them do something for an hour." So after we gave them the gift of swag, I gave them also the gift of time because I know they have been working. So they ended up having that 45 minutes. Team building would have been important, but at the same time with COVID and everything else, I figured the gift of time, listen to my wife. It's always an important thing to do. Mission, vision, core values timeline. So this is our update. So we are going to be meeting actually with some community members tomorrow. We're having our coffee with a lead learner. And so we're going to be getting some community input and then trying to pull those kids out without crossing pods. So we'll be getting that information out to them and talking to them about what we're doing. And then we will hopefully be able to have that presentation at our next board meeting. Next steps to create a makerspace. We've been talking about that. So we have been meeting with the facilities to use the existing computer lab. We've started to talk to some outside companies and looking at, they're giving us some designs on the spaces. We're waiting to be able to visit other maker spaces because nobody wants visitors in their campuses right now. And then we did match an existing staff member, Tara Smith, who is our librarian, would be the perfect fit to do both roles as a librarian and also the makerspace coordinator. And we've sent her on a couple trainings before COVID things started getting a little crazier. So she was able to do some of those. And so we have some planned. And then we're looking at utilizing some of the resources like the Hicks-Nichols grant to help fund some of the makerspace. And then upcoming events, like I mentioned, we have virtual coffee with me tomorrow, January 12th from 8:30 to 9:30. Also, there's no school on this Monday, January 17th, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Day. And then January 28th is our next early release day. And that is it for the board, our board minutes or board report for this month. I think that's the quickest I've ever done it.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. And I do have a couple of donations for your makerspace. I talked to my sons and we're going to donate a Raspberry Pi and a 3D printer.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We will gladly take those.
Okay. Okay, up next, we have the superintendent's report.
Yeah, I will share my screen here. Unfortunately, my presentation is never quite as exciting as Brian's or interesting. No elf on a shelf, no dressing up like a reindeer, but clearly, can everybody see that okay? I assume everybody can see that, right? We
Yeah,
good?
that's fine. Thanks.
All right, good. And I'm going to try to go quickly too. And some of these things might prompt questions. If you want to save the questions for the end, that might be good. General updates. Staff had the in-service, as Brian said. I want to thank Angie and the administrative team for the way they organized that in-service, at least the first part of the day, certainly. And then Brittany put some self-directed work together for the afternoon, but I think it was productive. And we tried to balance it, as Brian said, between giving some people some time and space, but also providing some content. The strategic plan, I mean, we have to remember that, you know, there are staff members really throughout the SU, quite a few actually, who weren't around when we developed that strategic plan. So we felt it was important to do a dive into that plan. It seemed like everybody enjoyed the much needed rest over the holidays, get to see family, friends. It's always, I know people sometimes, criticize educators because every now and then we do get those breaks, including February break coming up here in April. But I will tell you, especially in years like this, it was well-deserved and much needed. Sub-degree temperatures today. Everybody noticed that, I bet. And even Brian said he probably would have to put his gloves on. He had brought some of that Southern California weather with him, but I think it is slowly going away. It's supposed to be a little better tomorrow. And we just get so nervous about, we have a lot of walkers, especially in one of our districts, and also those kids that are at the bus stop. So we made the decision, or I made the decision with the support of the administrative team, to start a little late this morning. Hopefully that worked out for everybody. We don't like to do that. We won't do it very often. Budgets, we're going to talk about this tonight. They have to be ready for print soon. Hopefully we can finalize the expenditure budget tonight. I see Ed is on the line. Brian has a short PowerPoint, and then Ed will share the numbers and some of the tax rate implications, so we can make those final decisions. I think at some point we have to talk about, maybe we've already done this, but which board members are up for election. I think, according to Elizabeth, one of our board members in another district who's also a state legislator, that there is a move afoot to suspend having to get signatures like we did last year. So we'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, if a board member is up for re-election, they probably should be at least trying to get a few signatures here until we get the official word. Does anybody know any more about that? Anne Marie, have you heard anything about, first of all, who's up for re-election? Do we know, Anne Marie?
I'm up for re-election, and Mark and Kristen are up for re-election. I haven't heard back from them, though, if they are planning to run. So I asked them in an email, but I didn't hear back. I have I've gotten my petition for school board 3-year, but I just got it today, so I haven't gotten any signatures. I was actually really wondering today how I'm going to get all those signatures, given, you know, how everything is going online now. So it would be great if they could do that again this year. If not, I'll have to just, I guess, drive around to some people's houses or hang out in front of the transfer station one weekend, something like that.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Kristen and Mark, do you want to go on record tonight? Are both of you going to run again?
I am not running again.
Oh, Kristen, that's very sad. Because you have a professional coaching career, I know that's going to be starting here. I heard Duke needs a women's coach. I know that, so pay attention. You're going to leave us, huh?
I know. I feel bad. I've done 3 years, but I know.
Mark is also posted in the chat that he is not planning to run for re-election either. Although I think we could probably beg him to do it, because I talked him into it last year, so we can try again.
This is. I'm sorry.
You saying I'm an easy mark, Anne Marie?
Yeah. I think we can work on you. I don't know about Kristen. I've never heard her say she wasn't going to run, so I don't know how easy she is to convince. We'll give it a try, though.
You never know. You never know. We'll give it our best shot. If
any members of the public would like to submit applications too, I think they'd be welcome.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably it's a public meeting. I always send this video, a recording to Anne Marie. I think you posted on Facebook. So anybody out there that wants to run for the Weathersfield School Board, that would be great. This has always been a strong board. and a board that focuses on kids. So if you want to run, just contact Anne Marie. She can tell you how to do it. I am pretty certain you're not going to need the signatures, but Elizabeth said she'd keep us posted in the next day or two, and I'll let you know, Anne Marie, as soon as we know. But
Okay.
yeah, that's sad. We may come back and beg both of them, but in the meantime, if anybody out there is interested, feel free. Who was our moderator last year, Anne Marie?
I want to say Campbell. I forget his name, his whole name.
John Broker Campbell.
John Broker Campbell. Yeah.
Okay, and as far as you know, is he doing it again, BJ?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I
okay.
know. Yep.
So we don't have to worry about moderator. And the town of Weathersfield, and I assume we're going to follow suit. They've decided they want to go like we did last year, virtual. And Elizabeth also tells me that the state is going to allow that again this year. So I'll keep everybody posted by email. And usually at our February meeting, once we adopt a budget, that's when we talk about how we're going to present the budget, how we're going to market the budget. So we'll set that up for our February meeting. COVID update. Certainly Brian gave you the local piece of this. Many of you know, if you listened to the governor's press conference today or read the Vermont Digger over the weekend, there is a state shift and focus from school-based test to stay. And I want to give a shout out certainly to our nurses and that team that Brian just spoke about. They've done yeoman's work. But you could see from the numbers that Brian gave us tonight, it is cumbersome. It does take a good part of the morning to get all that test to stay, those pieces done. And I think the state was recognizing that this Omicron strand is incredibly contagious. And it seems to be, again, it seems to follow the unvaccinated pattern, but they're vaccinated are getting the virus as well. And so because of that bulk, and if you've been looking at the count lately, you can see that that's not, whatever we're doing is not working in terms of, we seem to be able to control things in school. When we do the contact tracing, it looks like the transmittance is usually outside of school, but the bottom line is it's still getting transmitted, whether we do the contact tracing or the test to stay. So I think what we want to do here, that's the average antigen test, but we don't want to pivot too quickly. I think some of us, Anne Marie, I think you listened to that Vermont Public Radio press conference today. I think there's a couple of things if we're going to make this pivot, and I'll keep in touch with the board chairs because I wouldn't do it without the authority of the board chairs at least. But I think if we're going to make this pivot, we have to make sure that we have the family kits available and on hand, because what the game plan is, both for somebody who tests positive for COVID and for a close contact who's unvaccinated, the game plan is to give the person a family pack of test kits so that they'll be able to on days one. Well, for the close contact, it would be days 4 and 5 that they would test with the antigen test, and for the person who is did test positive, it would be right from the start of that positive test. It would be days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And again, with both of those, you'd need 2 consecutive negative tests and not have any symptoms. If you continue to have symptoms, or God forbid, you test positive again, in that antigen world, then you'd have to stretch it out to 6 days, 7 days, 8 days. The maximum is 10 days. And then you can return as long as you're symptom free. We're trying to learn this new guidance, and we're not going to do it like yesterday or today or tomorrow. We're going to wait and make sure we've got the test kits ordered, the families are on board, and it's going to be, it will be somewhat of a change. There'll still be some contact tracing because, let's say, a 4th grade, we get a call from a parent that says their child tested positive. We've still got to identify in that 4th grade who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. We still will probably look a little bit at the close contact world, because we got to decide who we're going to send the test kits home to in order to get those tests done. And I know this is a big change, so if anybody did have any quick questions, feel free to ask them now. We'll keep you posted. Good news. I mean, we're getting more concrete data in right now across the SU, and it does vary a little bit school to school. But if you go to our whole K-12 population, including our 9 through 12 population at Windsor, we're averaging about 60% upwards to 60% of our student population. At the elementary level, less so. You know, we're probably between 45 and 50% at the upper level. At the lower level, at the upper level, we're starting to push into that 60%, 70% range. But when you average it out, and you know that's what it is, we're going to get a more accurate count. The nurses are putting that together now, and I hope at the SU meeting I can give you a better update on that. There are some concerns. I mean, I don't know whether Brian mentioned it or not, but on any particular day, the principals, probably the first half an hour, if not hour of the day, is deciding how we're going to provide coverage in what areas of the building, because you have to have supervision and you want to have some teaching and learning going on, right? So I know there was a day, I don't know whether it was Monday, Brian, but you came very close to not being able to operate because of the number of staff that were out. Kids are a little different. We have a 50% threshold with kids, and as long as more than 50% are there, we can count that as a school day. And so far we've been okay. But with staff, it's about the ability to keep the kids safe, to be able to monitor the programs and supervise accurately. And we don't have a metric for this. In other words, but you know, we're talking about it, but it switches so much day to day, and everybody's job is different, right? I mean, so you just have to look at who's out, you know, and how long they're going to be out, and whether or not we can sustain it. So far, we've been able to keep all of our buildings open, but that is a big shout out to our principals, our administrative assistants, BJ, Carrie. I know that they do that work. They cover classes when they have to. They supervise and chaperone when they have to. You know, they cover classes when they have to, and so do teachers. Teachers are helping each other out. So that's a big shout out to the staff. We'll talk more about that at the SU meeting too. Athletics seems to be going well. I know Jessica's online. Is that a separate item on the agenda, Anne Marie?
No, it isn't. It isn't actually. We don't have athletics on today.
Okay,
I can speak about it quickly if
yeah. So Jessica, why don't you just talk about what's going on now? So we'll use that as an opportunity to.
Yeah. So all of our teams have had at least their first practice as of tonight. Except for our kindergarten, first and second grade, which will start on Saturday. Everything's going really smoothly and well. With the help of Emily and BJ, we're just figuring out, you know, test to stay into what kids can participate or not. But we successfully had our first game last night for grade 7th and 8th grade girls, and it was live streamed on Facebook. There was a lot of people logged in, and I think a lot of parents were super appreciative of being able to see their athletes playing. The streaming was good. I watched the whole game. I am home with COVID, and it is no joke.
Wow.
So Alicia stepped up and did wonderful work yesterday, running the clock and filming and the book all at the same time. So she did really, really great yesterday. But I'll be back next week, hopefully with some more home games. But I think for now, at least our streaming works. We know how it works, and we know it works well. So we'll get parents to be able to watch their athletes that way, and we'll just keep going and moving forward with practices and games as planned for right now.
Yeah, and I want to thank Jess and all the ADs. It hasn't been easy, and I know there was a little bit of controversy about spectators at games, but we just felt with this Omicron surge that it might be better to just try to live stream if we could and keep as many adults, you know, still out of the building as possible. We're having the same conversations at the high school, but the ADs have worked really well together, and sorry to hear about that, Jessica. Hope you feel better. And from what people tell me, no matter what the age, it's not a joke. I mean, so you want to,
Thanks, David. It's been I'm boosted, vaxxed, and I'm still knocked out. So it doesn't discriminate, that's for sure. So everybody just stay safe.
Yeah. Good point. Excellent point. Negotiations. Were there any questions for Jessica before I move forward? Okay, almost there. Negotiations, Jackie Antonovich is our board member that represents Weathersfield. The teachers settled with the board right before the holidays. It's a 3-year deal. We ratified it right before the holidays, and all the associations have ratified. So we are now going to be collecting signatures soon. We're trying to commit the document to a DocuSign document, just looking over the last of the typos, and you try to make it as right as you can before you put signatures on it. But it'll be nice. Sadly, the first year of the 3-year deal is this year, but we do get a 2-year break from negotiating, which is great. But that negotiating team works hard, and they represent the boards well. The ESP negotiations, which is basically our support staff, we've had one meeting. We're going to have another one tomorrow, and from the initial meeting, we're feeling pretty optimistic. I don't think we're too far apart in terms of, and I see a typo there, but in terms of salary and some of the stuff, there weren't a lot of items that were placed on the table. I think both sides want to get it done, and they would also like a multi-year deal if possible. And the support staff does have a contract this year. So if we could do a 3-year deal, it would mean 1, 2, and 3, where we wouldn't have to be negotiating anymore. And last but not least, the Equity Task Force continues to meet. We met with Melissa Crum to review the action steps, and we're setting up a possible partnership with Springfield. I've been in touch with Zach down there, and we've got a meeting, a matter of fact, tomorrow morning, to put together a request for proposal, an RFP for our SU and the Springfield district to do an equity audit. Because what we want to do in our equity work and in our anti-racism work is we want to make sure, we're not solving problems that we don't really have. We have to decide what is our baseline, how are we doing with issues of diversity and equity, and then if we have a baseline, as we do these different action steps, we can decide, are we making progress? Are we getting better with those areas that where we demonstrated a little bit of weakness? So again, Melissa Crum has been really great. Louvel Brown has been part of our initiative. Some of us are in his workshop. And I know some of the members of this board have stayed close to this initiative, including Mark Youngling. Hopefully he'll continue. If he doesn't continue as a board member, he'll continue as a citizen. But that's it for me. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them now. If not, we can move on.
If you want to raise your hand in the chat if you have any questions. I don't see any. I guess we'll move on to items for discussion. The first one up is town meeting, and we sort of briefly hit on that a little bit. The select board, I believe, has decided to do theirs entirely online, and we could do like we did last year and join them on that, or we can do we could do in-person totally, or we could also do a hybrid where we had some in-person available and mostly online. So if I'd like to hear the board members' opinions on those 3 choices. Mark?
I personally would be fine with a hybrid or remote. Either one would work for me.
Okay, great. Jackie?
I feel the same way. I think that we may have more participation if it's virtual, and so I think that's the best option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked with last year. We really had a lot of participation, and I think it was good. Kristen?
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, I think it goes both ways, though. Like, there are definitely some people who go to town or, to the school part and that wouldn't log in online. But I'm happy either way.
Yeah. David or Brian, do we have to, can we have a hybrid and still, join with the select board, or would we have to be totally virtual?
No, I think, and Brian, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think I think first of all, we've just got to make sure the state, does give us that. And somebody must have the inside track.
I think that I did see something that at least the legislatures had passed it. I don't know that the governor has signed it yet, but I believe I did read that
Good.
legislature had passed that.
Yeah, Elizabeth thought for sure it was going to happen. But anyhow, to get back to your original question, because we separate out those meetings, as Kristen said, right? Usually I think the school meeting is in the morning, right? And then we break for a little soup or whatever, and then we do the town version. I think we don't have to do exactly what the town does. We could set up much like we've done with other meetings. We could use the 2 owls and Sapper and all of those pieces and go hybrid. I don't know what the advantage there would be, because I bet you if you do go hybrid, most people are going to come in online. I mean, I really believe that, but I mean, I think,
I mean, there are some members of the community that
Like-
if you don't have the in-person option, they're going to complain that they didn't have the option of coming in person, but they might not show up anyway. I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of people at our meetings when we were doing them hybrid over the fall. There were not many people coming. So I don't know.
I guess to answer your question, we have the capability to do a hybrid if that's what you want to do.
I mean, I'm fine doing it that way as well. Either way, either a hybrid or a remote. I definitely do want to have some form of remote available to people, though, because I think a lot of people aren't comfortable yet coming out to things like that. So, Mark?
We should definitely have a remote access for people that might be at risk. We want their participation and we don't want the risk. So,
yep.
And we have to keep in mind too, right? Much like the rules for our other hybrid meetings, that really you would only need, 1 or 2 board members in the room. I mean, you don't. Everybody else, we just need somebody at the building to open the door, make sure the heat is on, make sure we've got the table set up. I imagine if we did it hybrid, we could use, I think we don't have to go down to the gymnasium. I think we could do it right in the activity space, but I think we've got a little bit of time to think about this. I don't know that we will need to make the decision before the school report goes out, though, because on the warning, it has to say whether you are totally remote or hybrid.
I think that's pretty soon, though, right, BJ? Like, they need that info soon.
Yeah, we need it within the next week, actually.
Yeah, because we're going to work on the warning. Once you adopt a budget tonight, let's hope you do. Then we'll put the warning together, and then that comes with all of our letters and reports to BJ, and then the report gets put together. So I'd say we'd need to make a decision, probably by the end of this week, if not the very early beginning of next week.
Well, I think we can make a decision right now. I just would like to hear more from Kristen if she thinks that it's worthwhile to do the hybrid. Kristen? Did we lose her? I mean, I don't have a problem with doing it hybrid so that people have the option. I mean, I could be there. It's not a big deal. So, Mark?
Mark has his hand up.
I would volunteer to be there in person as well, if that's what we need. Would we need a motion for this? Is this something we adopt separately than the budget?
Yes.
Yeah, it's separate. So yeah, we need a motion for a hybrid town meeting.
May I make a motion that we adopt a hybrid model for the town meeting for the presentation of the next budget for the Weathersfield School?
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay. I guess we can take a vote. We should probably do a roll call. I'll start off with Jackie, since she's up on my screen right now. All in favor? Actually, I guess one by one.
Aye.
Okay. Mark?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
And Jamie?
Aye.
Okay. and I also say aye. So that is unanimous.
That's unanimous. So
So we'll
we'll,
be doing a hybrid meeting.
Right.
I believe it's March 1st, correct? Or no, will we do it the Saturday before?
it's on the same day, right? The annual meeting is on the same day as the town meeting, right? Or no? Yeah. We've always done it. What day is it?
I thought it was always on the weekend that we did the town meeting itself.
No, it's on the Saturday, and I believe it's
Yeah.
February 26th.
Okay,
Okay.
February 26th. Yeah.
So-
But then the voting occurs that following Tuesday.
Yeah, the voting is on Tuesday, but the meeting is on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
Wait, that would mean voting is no. Let's see. If it's voting's on the second Tuesday, that would be March 8th.
no, it's on the first Tuesday, I
First
believe. It's
Tuesday?
March 1st.
Okay, so it's
First.
March 1st. Okay.
First Tuesday.
My one son has off Woodstock for
Okay. So it'd be
town meeting.
February 26th is the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, February 26th. And BJ, we'll just have to make sure that when Lori puts the warning together that we have that clearly marked out. We'll use these, the school address and remote option, much like we do for board meetings.
Okay.
All right, that's good. That's a good decision to make.
Okay. And now we have the FY23 budget, which from what I saw looks pretty good to me. So let's see. Brian, did you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start off. I have a short presentation, and then I'm going to let Ed do all the number part. All right, everybody good? All right, so our FY23 Weathersfield School proposed budget. So our budget goal is alignment of the budget with the strategic plan, continuous improvement plan, and education quality standards. So goal for student success and engagement. So we're using Leader and Me, comprehensive assessment plan, development of the middle school model, co-teaching, interdisciplinary approach to teaching and learning, student-driven learning, universal design, UDL for implementation. Goal 2, culture and student wellness. So we have student advisory boards and councils, diversity and equity work, restorative approaches, trauma-informed schools and collaborative problem solving, MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports, health and wellness team, mental health services, with our school counselor, HCRS clinician, our We Are Hope coach, and Panorama, child nutrition at no cost to families, and then our school schedule being great for kids. Information and communication. So we're trying to engage the community through weekly updates and newsletters, website, and social media. Our data dashboard, which is coming soon, community events, and then our Leader and Me. And then this is actually, I stole this from my last school that I used it at. And it's just sort of a great visual of how we work together. So our motto at my last school was gears because we were a STEAM school, but just about how everybody needs to work together and all these pieces need to come together to be able to be successful. All right, so the priorities for recovery at the school level. So we need to be able to assess what the students need. We need to ensure that the supports for social and emotional learning are there. We need to continue to develop stronger relationships. Relationships are the most important part. Emphasize authentic and culturally responsive learning, provide expanded learning time, establish community schools and wraparound supports, and prepare our educators for reinventing schools because school's never going to be the same. Okay, so we need to make sure for assessing what students need that they have the time and the tools. We're prioritizing assessments that illuminate student growth and learning. We're supporting acceleration of learning, not remediation. So we're really going to focus on students accelerating. Invest in teachers' knowledge. We've got a great knowledge base with our teachers and use those skills for formative assessment and move toward with more coherent systems of assessment. So make sure our assessments really matter for our students. Ensure supports for social and emotional learning. So we're going to integrate social and emotional learning, SEL, into the life of school is essential to mitigate the pandemic's impact on lifelong success and learning. So the more we work with those students, because it is impacting our students for sure, and we want to make sure it has the least amount of impact. So we're trying to implement a comprehensive system of support. We're ensuring there's opportunities for explicit teaching of social and emotional skills at every grade level, not only by the teacher, but by our counselor. We're infusing SEL into instruction in all classes. We're instituting restorative practices and enacting policies that enable SEL and those restorative practices. So we want to, like I said before, continue to develop stronger relationships. So it's trying to create structures that foster health and safety, as well as personalization and trust among children and staff. So really working together, being out there with our students. I'm trying to be out there every day with them at recess, trying to build those relationships. I've been riding the bus for the last 3 days because we don't have enough staff to cover. So I've been that bus person. 6:30 in the morning, having the bus meet me at the doorstep is a little early. Strengthening partnerships with our families, trying to build that community, cultivate support environments filled with emotional safety and belonging. That was weird there. And then enact policies to support relationship and centered designs. We're emphasizing authentic, culturally responsive learning. We're offering guidance for how schools can restart by focusing on authentic learning and assessment strategies. We're providing curriculum tools and professional learning for educators to support more authentic learning and assessment. We're ensuring that the authentic learning is also culturally connected and culturally sustaining. We're trying to build capacity for inclusive, identity-safe, culturally responsive practice. And we're redesigning assessments to emphasize applied learning and complex problem solving. So we're providing expanded learning time, infuse quality interventions within and beyond the school day, expand high quality after school programs, create high quality summer programs, expand the reach and duration of early learning programs, and then enact policies and access funding to support expanded learning time. So establish the community schools and wraparound supports. So we want to enact local policies that support well-designed community schools, enlist regional agencies that can provide technical assistance and help coordinate local services, create reliable funding streams to support community school needs, and then create children's cabinets at the federal, state, and county levels so that we can coordinate and get all those services that we need for kids across all the different agencies that are out there. So we really utilize all those supports that are out there for our students. And then preparing educators for reinventing school. So invest in high quality educator preparation, transfer educator learning opportunities to match current needs, support mentoring and new teacher roles, create collaboration time, and then take the long view. So here's some areas after meeting with the BAC as well, and then meeting with our staff of where we need some additional support. So for learning and development, academic, social, and emotional programs, we need the world language. It's something we're looking at, and then after school programs to be able to develop our students more after school. At Weathersfield specifically, we need our BAC really look for a world language teacher. We need to make sure that we're able to get some extra support staff. We had 2 general ed paras that we lost this year, and so we had 4, but we've only had 2. So to make sure that those are put into place, and then actually set aside some extra money for emotional support staff to make sure that our students are getting those needs, and then more at the SU budget wise to look at that school to home coordinator, a social worker maybe, and then our BCBAs. I know we're looking for some of those. One additional one is needed for sure. We share one right now with Windsor, but to have that person on site full time would just really help out our school. And then we always like to say that we're better together. So utilizing those MTSS positions that we're sharing resources and data discussions, intervention work across the SU, and those positions being hired, the BCBA and SEL team collaborating and giving those flexibility. So almost like if we had that trauma type of situation that they can move over and help out at different schools. And then again, that homeschool coordinator / social worker. And then so what I'm going to do now is have Ed go through. I know that was pretty quick, but I'm going to have Ed go through and he's going to present the numbers and then the tax implications as well. But all these things that I mentioned, it's hard because I'm not seeing your faces the way I'm presenting, is what we need at our school with our budget. So I wanted to give you the background. Any questions on what I presented so far? I know that was fast. So and I
Thank
tend to
you,
talk
Brian.
faster once I go.
I did have one quick question. I've never heard of Panorama. What is that?
Panorama is a survey. And Angie, do you want to touch base on that a little bit more? It's a survey that we're finishing up right now for students to be able to see what those needs are for that. Did you want to add
It's
to that?
it's through our ESSER funds, Anne Marie, that we for gauging where our students are at with social emotional learning. And so we did our baseline survey. We were hoping to be done before Christmas, but before break. Unfortunately, so many student absences. We're still not quite done. We'll be finishing up this week.
Yeah, we should be finished by Friday. Melissa Cole, our school counselor, has been working on that. And so she's got one class that was out and a couple other kids here and there. So she's got just a handful of students that needs to finish up. So our goal is by Friday to get that done. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see the emphasis on the social emotional because just from, I don't see it so much in my own kids. I'm kind of like wondering, like, am I missing something in my own kids? But but I have heard so many stories and just listened to a program on VPR that interviewed some students around the state. And it just sounds like I know it's been tough on all of us. We're all kind of battered around by the pandemic, but it really sounds like it's a real problem for the students. So I'm glad to see that we're focusing our efforts on that.
It's definitely an emphasis for us to be able to really, because my philosophy is kids, if they don't feel safe, if they're not comfortable, then they're never going to be able to learn anyways. So we want to put that emphasis first, and we want to make sure that they feel safe and that they are in a safe environment at school.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. Looks like, Becky, you have your hand up?
Oh, I have to get my mic on. I just wanted to say the same as you, Anne Marie. I really appreciate that presentation, that part, because to me, for me anyway, I think that's the important part. We have to talk about the money, but that part's the essence, and I like that. I hope that's going to be at the beginning of the presentation. I really like it.
Thank you. And it's important. The money, obviously, like you said, is important, but to know what we are doing with it and where we're going is I feel is the emphasis for it, because it's all about the kids.
Yep. Okay. So we will move on to the numbers with Ed Connors.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I think last Friday or Saturday, maybe, Brian sent out a packet of information, and what I'm just showing you is what was in that packet. So this first one is an Excel spreadsheet that just outlines the stats that are important to Weathersfield when they're analyzing their budget for this year. So the first one shows you that in comparison to FY22, your budget is up 5.64%, or $370,598. And then the second two, equalized pupil and common level of appraisal, are numbers that are sent from the state, and those numbers are used to calculate the tax rate. And as you can see, the Weathersfield equalized pupil went up significantly, which has a very positive effect on the overall tax rate. The higher your equalized pupil, you're taking that number and you're dividing it into your cost of education. So it's going to lower your cost per equalized pupil, and it's also going to lower your tax rate. The next one is your common level of appraisal. Like every other school in the SU, in the state, I would imagine, there's been a decline in your common level of appraisal. That's because of the large amount of home sales and people moving to Vermont have driven up the cost of the cost of homes, and your appraisal hasn't kept up with that. So what happens in those instances is that 100% would be your appraised at the perfect number. Anything below it means that you need to do a reappraisal, or it points to that. And anything above it means that you're over appraised. So in Weathersfield's case, as it is in all the districts, right now you're under appraised, and that's why it's gone down. Your ed spending per equalized pupil is gone up. It's gone up by 3.49%, which is above the excess spending threshold, which in a normal year would trigger a certain penalty. So any money that was any amount of money, so that $715 would get tacked on to your ed spending. So it would get added to this number, and that's what would go into the formula, and it would drive it up. But we're in a 2-year moratorium on that. So it has no effect in this year. It's something to keep an eye on, though, because the higher that is, that, as you can see, that penalty would be added to this, right? And what it would do is drive that number up to 200, and that's what would go into the formula, which would then have an effect on your tax rate. It would raise the tax rate even more, okay? So anyway, we get down here, and I've given you 2 scenarios. There's a scenario A and a scenario B. So every year we get a letter from the tax commissioner. The tax commissioner makes recommendations for property yield and income yield, which are both very important to the tax rate. Property scenario B is.
Hey, Ed, you're going in and out a bit. Is there
I'm
something
sorry.
on your end?
No.
Okay.
I'll stay closer to the microphone. Scenario B is the scenario where the ed fund right now has a $90 million surplus. And that $90 million surplus is the legislature is going to have to decide what to do with it. So if you look at the 2 scenarios, A is the scenario where they're going to take the 90 million and they're going to use it in this year's ed fund. So it increases the property yield and the income yield so that those 2 increase, that lowers the tax rate, okay? Scenario B is where they don't use the 90 million. So A is all of the 90 million, B is none of the 90 million. And if you go up, you can see in A, given the expenditure budget and all of your local revenues, that would equate to a 10% decrease in the tax rate, or 20 cents lower. So you'd be in FY22, it was 1.9482. In scenario A, it would be 1.7529. In scenario B, where they don't use any of it, it would be a 3.71% decline, or 7 cents less. Now, the reason it's less is because your equalized pupil, and in either of these scenarios, the property and income yields are both significantly higher than they were last year. So both of those work in your favor. So that's why you're seeing, even in scenario B, where they use none of the 90 million, you're seeing a decline in the tax rate. Does anyone have any questions? Scenario B is the one that I'm using because that was the recommendation by the AOE and by most of the people that my colleagues in the business managers world.
But we could choose to use either one, or
you could choose to, yeah, but the legislature has to decide how to use that 90 million.
Yeah.
They gave us A and B, recommending we use B. Last night, the question came up, well, you're saying in A, they use the entire 90 million, and in B, they use none of it. Well, could there be a C where they use some of the 90 million? And of course there could be, but it would be, I don't know how to figure that in. I know how to figure in additional local revenue into your budget, but I don't know how I would figure it in to generate a property yield if I said, oh, say they use 45 million.
Okay. I had a question about the equalized pupil, because that has really gone in our favor this year. Why is it in our favor this year when, like, the other 2-3 years I've been here, it has not been in our favor?
Well, in the last year, they froze it. Okay. So what you're seeing is a culmination of a 2-year.
I can't hear you.
I said last year they froze it.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is to this year is the culmination of 2 years.
Hmm.
And it has been in Weathersfield. If you take a look at the number 326.88, that's pretty close, or it actually is a little less than what their actual count is. But because the equalized pupil is a 3-year moving average, you don't see the increase until as you move across. You might have some low numbers in the first year, and as we're starting to push out, you're starting to see those numbers increase. And Brian, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think you guys are at like 335 actually, correct?
Does that sound right, BJ?
For students?
Yes.
Total students K-12 or
Uh,
pre-K-12?
No, K8. Oh, no,
236.
K12, I'm sorry.
236.
236.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking something.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think
236.
you're reflective of that number's more reflective of your actual count.
Yeah. And remember, your high school kids are in that count. And we talk about those high school kids, and we talk about it on the negative side with tuition, right? Because we're a choice town, but it also, if those kids are moving in over the summer, because of choice, they, over a 3-year average, like Ed said, it doesn't catch up right away, but you start to see an increase. And I think that's what Weathersfield is experiencing. You've stayed pretty constant at K8 or even gone up some, but your high school population is strong as well. So that's good. But I think, and the tax rate piece and Ed's estimates on the tax rate, it's one of the reasons why the board essentially, because those are estimates and we don't know what the legislature is going to do. So really the key tonight is to adopt the expenditure budget, right? And once you adopt that, we put the estimates into the town report, but they're only estimates. And usually when the tax bills go out, I mean, it's usually in the ballpark, but it's not exact.
Yeah. Also, I was wondering if figured into this is the what's it called?
Surplus? The
The
surplus?
surplus. Yeah.
No. So the amount of the surplus is 100,305.89.
Okay. So I mean, it's sort of been our policy. We'd have to vote on it though, because it's not like set in stone. But to give that money back to the taxpayers, how does that affect?
Or you guys send it to capital reserve.
Yeah, you can do either one.
You could
Yeah,
do either
I know
one.
we can do either one, but it had been sort of a. I mean, I know Jamie's new, and I think Mark is new since we sort of had that. But Kristen and Jackie and I and the previous board, it was kind of our thinking that the money should go back to the taxpayers. We don't have to do it that way, of course, but if it was done that way, what would the effect be?
Okay, so to do that, I just need to switch screens here real quick. So I'm going to call it 100,305. Okay, and I'm going to go to this. And I'm going to add this in here.
Yeah, while Ed's doing that calculation, Anne Marie, the other thing to keep in mind is we have rolled in that surplus in years past because we've been tentative about that tax rate, right? And I think that right now that tax rate, even without rolling it in, looks good. I don't know what's in the reserve account right now, but I know, the building is still fairly new, but it's going to continue to need things. I just think it's worth the board having a good discussion about this.
Yeah.
And then making that final decision.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to know the figures, just so we had some idea of what it would do before we made that decision.
Good.
Okay, so there it is. It would take the 7 cents and make it 10 cents.
Okay. that would be 5. Okay. All right. Did anyone have any questions for Ed other than myself? Okay. I guess my other questions were more aimed toward Brian. As far as the some of the increases that we see in the budget, and then I also was wondering about if we had anything in here for regular ed a building-based summer program for next year.
For building-based summer program, I do not have anything in there.
Okay.
And then the changes in the budget, we're adding the world language teacher, and then putting the paras back in there. As far as those are the major changes in the budget.
Okay. And the paras, they had like they were in last time's budget. You had taken them out because we couldn't fill them.
Yep.
And
then we decided with the BAC's recommendation to go ahead and put them back in there, and also with the staff's recommendation to put them back in there. And so that was in there, but then it wasn't. So I mean, we would have had an increase.
Okay. I don't know if this would be for Brian or for Ed. I just noticed for our this was on sort of not the summary sheet that Ed just went over with us, but the next page where it's the function sort general fund, and it starts off at the top with elementary, and this. So for FY23 we have 880,000 for elementary, but for FY22 we had 962. I just was wondering where we were losing that $100,000 there. What was the savings?
Well, there was a teacher at the elementary level that left, and we also used monies, or one of the positions that helped with that was a ESSER position that will be funded next year. I think that's correct, right, Brian?
Yeah, that's correct. And then we also moved one of the teachers that was actually a curriculum person into the regular spot because she wasn't a regular general ed teacher.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
Could I make a comment, Anne Marie?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the summer program is a good question because that became a little bit controversial last year. I mean, we do still have ESSER monies to support sort of the recovery and academic end of this, but I know that the summer program at Weathersfield, when Patty Parmelo was running it, I mean, it was very much activity based, and one of the things I think we've talked about with a couple of the other principals and Brian is that maybe some of the actual recovery and academic work that focuses around those really needy kids, because this was supposed to be our recovery year. Guess what? We're going to need a recovery year after this year. But if you recall, we wanted to have activities for those kids in the afternoon, and those certainly could be school-based. So, I mean, I think if you wanted to I think in the past you budgeted anywhere from 10 to 20,000 for a summer program. I think if you wanted to do something like that and you had a couple of teachers or people who are willing to do that kind of work, I think that would be great.
Kristen?
Yeah, I would like to see, just my thought would be to put the surplus back in and create our own summer program, like just because we heard from so many community members last year.
Mark?
I was going the same place as Kristen. I think a portion of that should really be earmarked for that building-based summer program that's important to our taxpayers.
Yep, I agree. Logistically, Brian, how are you feeling about setting up a summer, like, I never took part in it. My kids were older when we moved here. So I don't know if anybody wants to describe it for Brian, or if he knows what we're talking about.
If somebody could describe it, that'd be great, because I've had different summer programs in different areas, more enrichment type programs that we've done, but let me know what we've done here and we can build upon that. And
BJ, do you want to fill him in a little bit?
I knew I should have clicked off. No, I'm just kidding. So it starts with, it was a theme based each week with a different theme that somebody led. And we did focus on academics, but also having fun and making it fun. We use Track My Progress sometimes to monitor beginning, middle, and end of the program. So there was some assessments there. And the kids just came and had fun. And we found out it worked better, I think, during the middle of the week and just for the month of July with attendance.
Yeah.
Starting after 4th of July.
Yeah. And was it a half-day program or was it a full day?
Half day.
Half day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not super, I don't think would be too hard to find some people to staff it, but Jackie?
And correct me if I'm wrong, BJ, didn't that get to come with some of the funding through special ed? And so the cost for that program was only between what, $11,000 and $15,000?
I think special ed was involved, but I'm not sure about the funding with them. Really, to be exact, Jackie. Sorry.
It's all right.
Oh, sorry. I think it's something that, maybe we should budget a little extra, because I don't know that with the, I'm just thinking that with the SU having the special ed thing, that maybe we wouldn't get those same kids. So maybe it wouldn't have the special ed budget money. David, do you know?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I mean, I think, whether it's academic and enrichment or a combination of the two, if it's a half-day program, whether it runs in the morning or afternoon, we can work that out. But then it would still give an opportunity for those parents who did want to participate in something more regionally that was maybe more special ed based or interventionist based. I mean, we could still do that. But I agree with you, Anne Marie. I think you ought to put a little more than you have in the past in there, just to make sure you can compensate those wages and run a good program for, as BJ said, 4 weeks or so. So I think we can make it work either way. You just got to get the money in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we could tie it in with our new Makerspace as well.
Yeah.
And make it more of a STEAM-based summer program.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then we're utilizing something new and showing the community already what we're doing with this new phenomenal space that we're going to have.
I like how you think.
The wheels were turning. As soon as you were describing, when BJ was describing what it was, I was like, okay, let's go STEAM on this and let's see how we can do it.
Yeah. And also some of the parents did mention that they would be willing to pay too. So, we could definitely offer, if we needed some extra money or something, we could have it be a pay thing, but then also offer scholarships for those that can't afford it, or just make it a very small amount of money. But that was one thing that some of the parents had volunteered that really wanted this program for the summertime. They had offered to even pay for it. Angie?
I just wanted to say that to remind you that Summer Academy is for all students, based on criteria for students, particularly students who are struggling academically. And it wasn't a special education program. It was a general education program there were special education students in it by virtue of the way we qualified students for the program. It would make sense that those students would be some students on IEPs. I would suggest that we perhaps you invite Katie Ahern to your next meeting so that she could speak more thoroughly about the differences between the program that you're proposing and what our summer academy will be offering. And we're just starting to think about it, and it will probably look very similar to what it looked like last year. But I think it's an opportunity. The program at Weathersfield could serve a different population and a different need. So it only benefits students that we offer these things.
Yeah. Ed?
Yeah, my only thing was, and I think I put it up on what I was presenting. I just want to make it clear that if you have a $341,000 balance in your capital reserve, if you wanted to have Makerspace, you could put some of this 305 in there so that you could do the project for the Makerspace and still keep us a balance. I think it's important that you have a balance of that magnitude in a building of your size. I think it's a good idea to have at least, in my world, I'd love to see it have $500,000 in case something big happens. Okay. But what you have in there is adequate. The building's fairly new. We have had some issues with the wood burner, nothing major, but we had to make some repairs. And with Brian becoming the new principal and him advocating for a Makerspace, I do know that they can get expensive. And if you put some more money in there, that you'd have that money to add and augment what he wants to do.
So the capital reserve can be used to buy things for the Makerspace?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. So I thought it was just for like building and building maintenance. Okay. That's good. Okay, does anyone else have any other comments? I'm thinking that if we took 15,000 and put that sort of tentatively for a summer program? Or do you think it would need to be more than that?
How many students are we hoping to serve?
I think typically, well, BJ will know better, but I believe it was around between 20 and 30. It's not a huge amount of students.
Yeah,
But if you make it really, yeah, if you make it really exciting, we might get more.
Yeah. I mean, I think since you've got that carryover, it might not hurt to go a little higher, maybe 20,000. If you don't spend it, you don't spend it, but at least you've got it. And especially with it, as Ed said, it's going to cost a little to set up some of the Makerspace equipment, resources, the space itself. So yeah. So what we would do is we would, if I understand what you're proposing, Anne Marie, we'd take, let's just for round numbers, say 20,000 of that surplus, put that toward, summer programming or whatever. And then are you saying take the balance of that surplus and maybe put it into the capital reserve?
I think we need to talk about that then.
Okay.
How are people feeling about the other 80,000? Kristen?
I would like to see it go back to the taxpayers personally.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that I understand having something in case, but I don't know that that's our call.
Yeah. Ed? You?
Yeah, I just want to, as I did for all the other places, anytime you use surplus as a local revenue, you're making it sound as if, or you're setting up a scenario where if you don't have it the next year, it could increase your tax rate.
Jackie?
I like people better. I just want to note, like for the Makerspace, we actually, chances are pretty good that Hicks Nichols would be able to give a considerable amount toward it, so we don't necessarily need to focus on putting the money into there.
What are your thoughts, Jackie, regarding the 80,000 to go back to the taxpayers or to go into the capital reserve or some split of it?
Seems like each time we have it, we split it. So our splitting's getting a little bit smaller each time. But
You're over on the other side of the shop.
My general feeling on that is it is a surplus. It is taxpayer money. It should go back to the taxpayers. And we have to worry about what we have to worry about the following year. So, and chances are pretty good, I would think. I could guesstimate that there will be a scenario C. So we might see some sort of in between on the property yield. So that's it.
Okay. Mark and Jamie, I haven't heard what you guys think with the 80,000, the other 80,000.
I think I'm going to have to echo Jackie on this. My thinking is pretty much the same.
Okay. And Jamie, what are your feelings?
I think I agree with everyone else that it should go back to the taxpayers.
Okay. I mean, I'm torn a bit. I mean, I see what Ed's saying as far as that, you know, we do want to save for the future as well. But we do have quite a bit in there. We have 341,000. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit inclined to maybe, you know, put another 20 to the capital reserve and then give the rest back to the taxpayers. But if I'm overruled on that, I'm fine with that as well. So if everybody else is feeling like it should all go back to the taxpayers except for the 20 for the summer program, that's fine with me. So
Yeah, so what, if I'm understanding you correctly, Anne Marie, what would happen, and Ed, tell me if I'm wrong here, but what would happen is we would budget the 20,000 for the summer program. We'd put that back in the general fund budget.
mhm.
And then really what you'd be doing is you'd be moving the whole, if this is what you want to do, you'd be moving that whole surplus in as a revenue, right? Because you can't earmark that money to a certain line item. You have to, Ed has to book that as a revenue on the revenue side. So you'd have to book that whole surplus if that's what you want to do, is give it all back to the taxpayers. Then you would budget that 20,000, right? It would be an offset, but Ed would budget that 20,000 for the summer program if that's what you want to do.
Okay. Does the 20,000 summer program, does that affect our education spending per equalized pupil?
It would, but not very significantly.
Okay.
Yeah, it will. And I can tell you that right now it would go from, let me see. So now it's 2998.74. And this scenario right here, I've added in. So this number, this 6964, if you look over here, down here, this is what we started with tonight, right? We added in a summer program. So there's the 6964, not 373. Okay. So when I go to that, I have to stick that in. There's the number the new number. There's that surplus, right? And over here, it creates a tax rate of 1.8469, right? And it creates this, okay? And if I go over to this right here, So when I'm looking at this, the reason why this is lower now, the new one, is because you added 100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it did change it. It changed it, it lowered it.
Okay.
So you did the two things simultaneously. You added the revenue, right, from last surplus, and you put the cost of the summer program in. So what does that do for the tax rate, Ed?
It takes it down, adding $20,000 in, because the scenario I gave you before just had the additional 20,000, had the additional surplus local revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that lowered it to 1.8461 or 2. Adding the $20,000 raised it to 1.8469.
Okay.
And that's about a 10-cent. And remember, that's only an estimate. That's about a 10-cent decrease in taxes.
Okay. I mean, I feel really good about taking this to the voters. 5% decrease in taxes sounds good to me. I do worry, like Ed said, about the fact that we are still about $1,000 over the excess spending threshold, which doesn't affect us this year.
$470.21 over.
Oh, okay. That's not.
Well, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm wrong. So this would be equal to this minus 19,977. Yeah, you're right. $1,000.
Yeah.
And luckily, there's a waiver on that.
Yeah. So that is something that for our future budgeting, we're gonna have to. How much longer are they waiving that, Ed? Is it this year and next year, or just this year?
This is the last year, unless they change something.
You're going to see that formula probably change a little bit next year. This was the last year for the waiver. So Anne Marie, what you'd need tonight is you would need a motion first to take the FY21 surplus of 100,305 and use that as revenue in the FY23 proposed budget. So somebody would need to do that.
David, I don't think you need a motion for that.
You don't think so? Okay.
No, I think the only thing you'd need a motion for is to put it to a capital reserve. I think that if you use it as a local revenue, you don't have to do anything.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if we wanted to be on record with that decision since they talked about it, but I agree. I mean, it could just be, as long as there's consensus, we can do it.
Well, I believe we have consensus. If we don't, speak now. Mark?
I just want to make sure that there's some way that we can record the changes, the line item changes that we've made as such. That way we have some kind of visual representation on what exactly it is that we're voting on. Because I agree with you. I think we all have consensus. I just want to be able to say, okay, this screen that we're looking at now that Ed is presenting is what we're voting on.
I believe he has made all the updates to it.
And David, I just want to be clear. What I don't know, maybe I overstepped here. When you were saying you make a motion, you're not saying you have to make a motion and put it in the town report, right?
No.
You're just saying.
No. I'm just saying it might be nice for the board to be on record that that's what they wanted to do with the surplus, right? I mean,
okay, well that's a different, and I apologize. I thought you were talking about the end.
No, nobody has to vote on that. The voters don't vote on that. I mean, that's a possibility.
But I agree with David. I think it would be a good idea to make that motion.
Okay.
So Mark, just to answer your question, Ed has made all those changes. So your expenditure budget now is just what's in front of you, $6,964,373. So once you decide, and again, I would suggest a motion. You don't have to. I would move the surplus first from FY21 to FY23, and then the second motion would be to adopt an expenditure budget of $6,964,373 for the FY23 budget. So it's two separate motions if you decide to go that way.
Okay. Was there any other discussion on the budget? Are there any other line items or anything that anybody's concerned about? I know there was some talk about the paras. Originally Brian had said that since we can't fill it, and that they've been getting along without them. But I do think that to help support with the social, emotional, and everything, it is good to have an extra teacher in the room to help when one of the students is having a problem. So I think it's a good thing to have if we can fill the positions. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that? And then I know the other thing was the foreign language teacher, which I believe we're all in agreement that we did want to reinstate that position. It was one we sadly cut last year, and it's good that we have the money this year to put it back in. Okay, so everyone is happy with the budget as it stands then? So I guess I'll take a motion to, the first thing was to move the surplus from FY22 to FY23.
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Kristen.
Kristen seconds, and I'll do a roll call. Jackie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Anne? Aye. Okay, so Becky will be, it's $100,305 surplus from FY22 being moved to FY23. And then I need a motion to approve.
That's an FY21 surplus.
Oh, sorry.
You're using it in the FY23 budget as a local revenue.
Oh, okay. All right. So FY21 surplus being used in FY23.
Correct. Becky, do you have that motion? You okay?
I have it.
Okay.
Great.
Do you want me to read it back to you or?
If you want to, just for posterity.
Mark Youngley made a motion to move the FY21 surplus in the amount of 100,000, whatever it is, 100,305 to the FY23 budget. And Kristen seconded it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So then I need a motion to approve the budget as it stands for $6,964,373 for FY23.
So moved.
Mark made that. Do I have a second?
And I will second again.
Kristen is seconding. Okay, and I will do a roll call. Jackie?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So we have a budget. Yay! And I'm really hopeful that the town is going to like this one. Okay. So I guess
So
that's all.
Did we vote the expenditure budget? We did do that?
Yep.
Okay, great.
That's the 6.9 million.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, we just did. Okay. One thing I was thinking about, I know in the past we've done mailers. I don't know how people are feeling. I don't think we need to sell this one. So we can maybe save that money, but then is it weird that we only send it out when it's a bad budget or not a bad budget, but one that's raising taxes? I don't know how that looks to people. Oh, Ed, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, should I just, I'm going to shut down the presentation. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any opinions about, because I mean, the mailer also did have other things, like it kind of talked up, the cool stuff that we're doing and things like that. So it does have other purposes, but it is costly. I forget exactly how much it cost last year, but Mark?
Is there anybody that would be comfortable possibly doing a short video read up of the current budget that we're looking approval for, and then just basically posting it as a small video? Because I've gotten some input from community members that exceeded my own level of confusion about how education funding occurs. I had people insisting that we need to stop raising the budget all the time at the same time as we increase services, and all kinds of crazy things, insisting that we should have the same yield as Norwich on our property taxes. And I just feel like if there's the kind of thing where somebody could just go through this budget in a short little video presentation, we could probably put it out there on social media or on the website, just to let people access it. And not to volunteer somebody else for more work, but I don't think I'm the one to do that with my knowledge base of the budgeting process.
No, I mean, I'm definitely not the one either, because I was totally surprised by the fact that we have a bigger budget than last year, yet less taxes. I don't get it. And I know it has, so if somebody does.
Yeah, welcome to Vermont, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what happens, right? Because all these other factors play into it. Your equalized pupil, your CLA, I mean, I just think it all makes a difference. I think it's a great idea, Mark. I think it should be probably one of the board members, and Brian, I mean, I'd certainly help. I would help do that, but I think it needs to come from, the board, really.
Yeah, I'm definitely in, so we can figure it out.
Yeah, because you've already got some slides, that we could simplify those slides around what are the goals around the budget. And then just, with the sheets that Ed has given us, I mean, we just could easily, and we could get, I'm sure, either Mike or Ryan to help us set up for it. I mean, if you don't, maybe Brian, you and I could take a point on that and see if we can get it done. And Ann, I know for you work, but I mean, I think it would be good if you're talking from slides, you'd have it all. It's pretty much like you do at town meeting, right?
Yeah, I could do that. If you guys make the words for me, I'll say them.
We'll keep it short. And some people are making good money on YouTube. So if this really, if we add a couple of songs, we kind of.
You don't want me singing though.
Budget season, the musical. It'll be a smash.
David, I think you need to tell people here that you do play the guitar and you do have a song.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Yeah, so you and I, Brian, we can talk about it, and then we'll fold Anne Marie. And I think it's a good idea, Mark. It's just, we got to just make sure we got the bandwidth to get it done. That's all.
Before we move on past the budget, I just wanted to say thank you to the board and to the BAC, and then to and to Jean Marie too for helping out with it. So I got through my first budget, so I'm excited. So I just want to tell everybody thank you, and Ed too as well, of course.
Yes. Thank you to all those people. This year's budget went is pretty well. I think we did a good job this year. So does anyone else have any thoughts about a flyer? Do you feel like we should send one or we shouldn't?
I think that we now do a very good job on a monthly basis and weekly basis. Brian really puts out a lot in both the newsletters and at the meetings. And while I see your point with, only sending one out when we when we need the vote, the yes votes, it's going to be a difficult time. At the same time, it's one less expenditure to help save for next year, right?
Yep.
I did have another thought on that, and I just lost it. The only thing that would be cool is you do say how it highlights good things that are happening at the school, and Makerspace is something that's pretty cool. So maybe we don't do that flyer right now, but maybe it's something for the future, or maybe we just do more of a social gathering when it comes to fruition, and it can be more of an open house type situation, or even a virtual open house. But I don't think it's necessary for us to do a newsletter, a flyer this year.
Okay. Brian, do you want to talk to Brandon about, I know we do need to get out there the web address for the online portion of our meeting. And I believe they had approached us last year about, and they did send something out to everybody with both the town and the school Google or whatever Meet addresses.
Yep, we can get that set up.
Okay. Okay. No other thoughts on that? I think we made all the action we needed to do today. We did a good job on our items for action. So we need to set the next agenda. We need to work on, I guess, our town meeting presentation. Jackie?
Sorry, and I did forget to ask. So, is there going to be a letter in the town report, as there usually is? Have you done that?
Yeah, I have it about half written. I wanted to wait for tonight's meeting to finish it up because I knew I was hoping that there'd be some exciting developments tonight, and that I wanted to include. And luckily, I will have some good things to put into that. So I will finish that up tonight. Get that out to you guys first thing tomorrow morning. Is that good? And then if you guys can get back to me ASAP, I can get it to BJ hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, or maybe by first thing Thursday. I know they need it. They need it by the end of the week, so I will finish it up tonight, get it out to you guys, and then if you can just read it over really quickly tomorrow and get any comments back to me, that'd be great.
Yep, that's great.
If y'all have any thoughts of something that you really want included in there, go ahead and send it to me. But I was mainly just going to talk about the fact that we're, Jean Marie left, and we hired Brian, and it's been a successful transition. And then also for the budget, I want to put in there that we're putting back in a foreign language because I know that was important to people, and the summer program. And I don't know if I probably don't want to put any actual numbers in there, so I won't say anything about 5%, but
will you share that as a Google Doc so we can just add our comments on there?
I'll get one of my kids to help me do that.
You're gonna get hooked.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Okay, so for the next agenda, we need to get ready for town meeting.
What's the date, Anne Marie?
Our next meeting, it's the second Tuesday. Let's see. Look at my calendar. So that would be February 8th.
Okay. Got it. I'll send that invite out now.
At 6 p.m.
6 p.m. has been our going time.
Yep. So Jackie, I know last year you volunteered to work on the PowerPoint for town meeting. Is that something you're willing to do again?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess if Brian, if you can
if you guys want to get together and work, because he had some stuff today that he showed us. Maybe you can work that into a presentation like we sort of did last year. I think we kind of combined stuff.
Yep. Well, maybe BJ, if you'd be kind enough to give me the final version of what last year's was, we can go from there. Just because I want to make sure I have the actual version we did. Yep.
That'd be good. And then if you can just have something rough, I guess, for next meeting, and then we can kind of talk about it, see if there's stuff we want to add or take out or whatever. Because that'll be our only meeting before town meeting. So,
Correct.
Unless we add another one in for some reason. And then I'd also like to just go over our radar list next meeting, just to sort of see how we're doing on different things. I know Brian sort of goes over that with his principal's report. He kind of checks off a lot of those things, but it'll be good to see how we're doing on the radar list. Anyone have, I guess, do you think we need athletics? I guess we left it off this time, but
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, I usually make it part of my report, but I think it wouldn't hurt to put it on. Just
Okay.
to be a very quick update.
Okay.
And of course, Brian and I will cover the COVID updates, so I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Uh-huh.
I'll be glad when we don't have to do those anymore.
Radar report and town meeting prep.
So you might just want to read them one more time so Becky makes sure she gets.
I have town meeting preparations. A look at our radar list and athletics.
Yeah, I think that's good because we'll spend some time on the town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have those all.
Okay.
Do you remember, Anne Marie or anybody on the board, do you remember whether or not when Brandon did the link last year, I think we did use the same link because it was all virtual. Was it a Zoom link or a Google Meet link, or was it one of those crazy Microsoft links? Do you remember?
I kind of think that they were two separate links.
Yeah, which might be good because we're so used to using Google Meet and we've got all the compatibility with Google Meet. So
yeah, I think it was something with that they use Zoom, I think now. They've switched a few times, but I think right now they're using Zoom.
Okay. We'll just need to make sure that our warning has our link at the top. That's the key.
Yeah.
And we should have that warning done too, board members who haven't done this before. I think most of you have, but Lori will let you know at the central office when that warning is complete. Usually I think she sends it to BJ so the board members can come in and sign that warning. It needs a wet. I think
last year, we either we went in or BJ came and found us and tracked us down. One of the other.
She knows where to find you.
It might cost you dinner this time. No, I'm just kidding.
She knows where we live.
So Brian, just so you know, the board, there's a warning basically calling all voters, to meet and blah, blah, blah. And then the different articles are there. The basic article this year will be the budget article. And then the board, because they're the ones that voted on that budget, they sign that warning. And then that goes in that annual school report. We went way too easy on Brian this year with budget, though. We've got to change that next year.
I didn't want to jinx it by saying, wow, this is the easiest budget that I've been involved in.
I don't know what it is, but Brian, I don't know. He carries that luck of the Irish with him. I don't know what it is. He's got it. Well done.
I do worry about when ESSER funds run out, what budget's going to look like.
I know it. But we're going to be able to tell everybody that because Brian is so frugal, the taxes are going down dramatically. They're just going to fall madly in love with their new principal. There's no question.
Okay. So do we have any need for an executive session? I mean, we can work on beating up Mark and Kristen in executives.
Yeah, here's an idea. No, we don't. I see Ed has a question though.
Oh, Ed?
Yeah, Becky, I just want to check the number that you have for the motion.
Thanks. And can somebody actually send me a copy? Just I'd like to make sure when I'm actually typing these. I have $6,964,373.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. But yeah, so I have
well,
it right
Ed
then.
could-
I
Becky,
just
Ed
like to
could
check
send-
that hard copy when I'm typing.
Yeah, Ed could send you just that one
Yeah, if he just sends me that back
sheet
page
that's
or
got the whole,
something.
that back page that's got
Yeah.
everything on it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If you want to send it to me, I can send it to Ed. Either way.
Okay.
Jackie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Anne Marie, I was just going to mention maybe in your letter, you want to just put a little plug in there that we'll have a couple of board positions open. I know that it's stated someplace else where our terms are, but maybe you just want to put a plug in.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, I mean, we've done well recruiting good board members. I know that's how we got Jamie. I think that's part of how Kristen came on board. I mean, I think that any board member that, knows somebody, friends with somebody, I mean, it's just nice to have people that share a similar vision. And this board has been very kid-centered and community-centered. So, I mean, it's just, it would be nice if we can't beat both of those board members up to reconsider. Then let's just do our best job recruiting, because this has been a great board to work with.
Could we meet real quick for like 5 minutes for executive session? I said one
Sure.
thing to talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Yep.
Yeah, we need a motion.
Mark made the motion, I guess.
Sure, I did.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll be different and second it.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're gonna go into executive session at 7:59.